And I think, when I started talking about this call of Abraham, this call to adventure, I opened up with I was looking at some of the complacency of the church. Some of the members of the church that have been members for a long time, and it's like they've lost the wonder, Michelle. They've lost the excitement. Those of you that have been married a long time, remember what it used to be like. Sometimes we've got to remind ourselves that we love our wives, and wives got to remind ourselves that we loved our husband. Sometimes we've got to think about the times when things were amazing. And I think that's the same way in our relationship with the Lord. Friendships with each other, like we've got to remind ourselves that this is an adventure and it's exciting. Now, I've said that the adventure, it looks different as you progress in life. It may not be running to the Yucatan anymore and, doing the missions. It may be the doctor's office trips and the shopping and but it's an adventure. And we've got to remember that. We've got to remember that. Remember that Abraham stepped into this adventure when he was 75 years old. So don't tell me it's too late. It's all about perspective. It's an adventure. And it takes a yes. And it takes a wondering, like, where could I go if I allowed you to take me there? I was thinking about that earlier today. Like, I was talking actually to my professor about it. I'm like, it's unbelievable. Or no, I was talking to you, Sylvia, in the prayer room. That's where it was. Talking about Nigeria came up, and then I've been invited to Uganda in December with Rabbi, and I'm just like thinking about, like, it's incredible. But it all started with a yes. It all started with excitement, with wondering, if I would just follow, where will you take me? Jesus said, follow me and I'll make you fishers of men. Started with a yes. It started with a yes of Tabitha and I, like saying, okay, we're reading our Bibles at home. We're praying together. And I see here that we need to be a part of a fellowship. We've been watching this program, and at the end of the program every week, there's this church, Lion of Judah. Maybe we should check it out. Yes, let's do that. And it was like so uncomfortable. I didn't, church? No, Well, I said yes, and she said yes, and then we walked through. That's why two have to walk together. And, that's why we're called to walk together. That's why Jesus sent them out in pairs. Because, one's got to encourage sometimes. The others, So we said yes, and we walked through that door, man, and everything changed. No matter how much I tried to, because I had father issues, it's very apparent that Rabbi Schneider is a father, right? He's not just a man, he's a father. He carries himself with that authority, carries himself like that. And because it was obvious, I wanted to keep some distance. But the Lord wouldn't let me, and the Lord kept telling me to do things, and I kept saying yes. Not that I wanted to. It's like being up here preaching tonight. You want to know where I want to be right now? Laying under that pew. Seriously. The person that is chomping at the bit to be up here, they're not ready to be up here. But I'm going to say yes. And where are we going to go? Lord, I'll go. Let's go. Moses didn't want to do it. Abraham, he was a spoiled brat, man. He could have stayed where he was. On and on. Gideon didn't want to do it. So many. Jesus didn't want to do it. If you can take this cup from me, but not my will, thy will. It's an adventure. We've got to remember that. And then in adventure, there's ups and there's downs, there's challenges, there's victories. But you can keep running. You're on Team Jesus. And you can do all things through him who strengthens you. You can endure to the end. He's giving you everything pertaining to a life of godliness. Just keep running, keep running, keep running. Don't stop running. It's an adventure. Keep our eyes on that truth. So last week, we ended, I guess we made it to verse 6, didn't we? In chapter 16. And I kind of stressed the importance of, when you know you've heard from the Lord, don't let your own wisdom or what looks wise to you, what looks right to you. Don't fall in the same sin that Adam and Eve did, right? I talked about Sarai offering her maid being like the sin of Eve, thinking that there was wiser wisdom than God's plan. Right? God speaks to us and we know it, but then we think we want to incorporate our little brains into it and think that we can do something better. And on the other side of that, Abram, what are you doing, man? God spoke to you. And he told you that your wife was important. Why are you doing that? Right? Why are you doing that? So I shared how important it is for men and husbands and to be leaders. Women to, come under that. And the two work together. And in all things, remember what God spoke to you, and don't be led astray. I mean, I see it. It's like, God spoke to me this, God spoke to me that, God spoke to me this. It's like, just last week you told me that the Lord spoke to you to do this, and now you're saying he told you to do that. Like, where are you? Is it really the Lord? Is it God's heart or your heart or your desires or God's desires? Like who are we following? What are we doing? I'm going to read this for you. Read this. Hold on a minute. Let me find it here. Kind of quoted this earlier. It's really good. A good person is not he who does the right thing, but he who is in the habit of doing the right thing. Your one-time action it's not your life, it's a one-time action, right? You don't trust somebody's actions, you trust their habits. And that's a real deficiency in our culture and world today, is consistency and discipline. We've got to remain consistent and disciplined. The flight by night stuff is crazy. Like, when I was a child, I thought like a child, and I acted like a child. But now that I'm mature, I don't think like a child, or talk like a child, or act like a child anymore. Children are distracted. I remember watching my 8-year-old nephew play baseball. I heard some laughing because you guys know what I'm talking about, right? He's out there. He was in the outfield. And he's just like, throws his glove down. Oh, it's a butterfly. We laugh, but some of us are like that. Yeah, it's tough. But here we are. So I talked about how Abram, instead of intervening, he just said, well, it's your servant. Because Hagar gets pregnant and she, begins to despise Sarai, like, I'm better than you. She's a little puffy. And Sarai's upset about that and ends up blaming Abram. And it's a mess, right? That's what we get when we try to do our own thing and walk in our own ways. We get a mess. And that's what he ends up in. And he puts all the burden on Sarai. Well, she's your maid. Do with her what you will. Sarai treats her harshly because she's not created to carry that mantle of discipline and that mantle of authority. She's not created for that. She's created to be submitted underneath her husband's leadership, but Abram's taking the easy way out. And then Sarai mistreats Hagar, and Hagar runs away. And this is where we are now. You guys want to stand for the initial reading of the word here? Now the angel of the Lord. Now there's a lot of discussion about who the angel of the Lord is. A lot of times the angel of the Lord, when he appears in Scripture, begins to speak in first person as God. So, even in rabbinic Judaism and the Mishnah and ancient Jewish literature, which is actually post-New Testament, by the way, I don't get into all that. They believe that the angel of the Lord is more than likely the pre-incarnate Messiah. And I believe that as well, because he's speaking as God oftentimes. Now the angel of the Lord found her, Hagar, by a spring of water in the wilderness, by the spring on the way to Shur. Please be seated. There's so much just right here in this verse. I mean, man, there's so much. So he said, Hagar, Sarai's maid, where have you come from and where are you going? And she said, I'm fleeing from the presence of my mistress, Sarai. The first thing I want to bring up is, how many of you, if you're comfortable, have experienced wilderness seasons in your life? Yeah, every hand's up, right? Now look at what happened. She's in the wilderness. She's in a wilderness season. And what happens? She encounters the Lord. So if you're in a wilderness season, I want to give you a perspective shift. Be prepared to encounter the Lord. And also, she's sitting by the spring of waters. You know what the spring of waters represents? A spring. Does anybody know what a spring does, what it is? A spring is just a bubbling forth out of nowhere of water from the ground. It's a provision. The wilderness is an opportunity for you to encounter provision and the living God. So if that's where you are right now, I want to encourage you. Now here's what happened. She's on her way to Shur. Does anybody know where Shur is? It's in Egypt. It's not sure. It's good, Angel. It's in Egypt. Does anybody know where Hagar's from? She's from Egypt. Now, how many of you have been delivered out of Egypt and have been tempted to go back? Oh, the food was good there. Right? Abram, he's not from Egypt, but what did he do? There was no food. Things didn't look like it was supposed to, so he made his way down to Egypt. So she's on her way to Egypt, and the Lord intervenes. Now, here's something else I want you to get. She's not a descendant of Abraham. She's not a member of the covenant family. This is an allusion to God's grace that will cover the earth. That it's not just for the Jewish people. It is. Oh, it is. But God, he declared over. What did he say to Abram? Through your seed, I will bless all the nations of the earth. And this is actually one of the first times that God encounters somebody that isn't a member of the covenant family. And he comes to her. He says, I'm fleeing from the presence of my mistress. Then the angel of the Lord said to her, return to your mistress and submit yourself to her authority. Oh boy. There's a lot to say there, isn't there? Man, oh man. Submit yourself. But she treated me harshly. I love, we teach Kingdom Concepts here, which is a teaching based on John Bevere's book, Undercover. And John Bevere, in that book, he makes this statement: submission doesn't even begin until there's disagreement. Until you are challenged, you cannot even submit. And as I say oftentimes, is there truth in it? Well, Hagar began to act like not right. Right? Sarai brings her into this place, and then she gets pregnant, and then she begins to mistreat her mistress. She begins to mistreat the one who brought her into this special place. So the lady treats her harshly. So, she deserved to be corrected. How often do people bring us into some place, and then we get a little bit big, and then we think we're supposed to be some authority, and then the authority begins to put a little pressure on us, and we run to Egypt. We need to examine ourselves. Well, could I have handled myself differently? Was there a part that I played in this? And obviously, if Hagar would have examined herself, she would have said, definitely, I shouldn't have treated treated Sarai this way. Now, it doesn't justify Sarai's mistreatment, but you get the point. So the Lord, and it's like, it's somewhere in Isaiah, that if the Lord leads you out, then you'll go forth in peace. People leave places upset, they get offended, they break relationships, they do all these things because they're offended. And then they claim it's the Spirit, maybe a spirit. Moreover, the angel of the Lord said to her, I will greatly multiply your descendants so that they will be too many to count. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? Now, get this. Some of us have left covenant relationships because we were offended and didn't want to submit ourselves underneath the authority of that relationship, not understanding that it was the connection to that relationship that would lead to a connection to the same promises that were promised to the relationship that we were connected to. You tracking with me? Does that make sense? So this is the promise that was given to Abraham. She got offended and left, and the angel of the Lord said, no, I've got a plan for your descendants, but it's only if you go back to connect with the covenant people that I set in the first place. Here we are, the church, like the conversation that I had earlier this week. Why the Jewish thing? Because they're the covenant people of God. And I'm smart enough to know that that's where the blessing exists. And I've got to go after that. Yes, it's hard, man. It's hard. I won't get into all the details, but right now, it's hard. The reality is that a lot of Jewish people are hard. They have very strong opinions. They're very confident, maybe to a point of arrogance. There's a lot of Jewish pride. They're the covenant people, the chosen people, and they know it. They're brilliant. And if you're not careful, they'll offend you. Promise you. I love, Rabbi, I've heard him say it. Everybody loves a Jewish person until they meet one. So many places wave these Israeli flags and churches and all this stuff, man, but they reject constantly the Jewish roots of the faith. They reject it constantly. They say one thing with their mouths, and they're disconnecting themselves from the covenant promise by disconnecting themselves from the reality of the ones that the covenant was promised to. Some of them they're in Egypt, right? And it may look like they're not because they have big buildings and big services and big this and big budgets and big that. That doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything. I don't even understand. Well, I'm getting off on a little tangent. That's okay. I'm going to get off on one. I don't understand how people can read the Bible, the Word of God, and not understand the importance of God's first covenant people. The very first words of the New Testament, this is the genealogy of Jesus, the Messiah, son of David, son of Abraham. It couldn't be a more Jewish book. It is the most important piece of Jewish literature ever. So all of these scholars and all of these doctors this and so, and Bible teacher that so, that doesn't get the importance of the Jewish people, they're like Hagar, running and offended. And I think I've said it before, I think it's a prodigal son, big brother issue. They're running from it and they're missing it. They're missing what they could have. They could have so many descendants that you won't even be able to count them. But they want their own kingdom. So let's not fall prey to that. We're not going to here, right? We know that. Uh-oh. Praise the Lord. There we go. To test. The angel of the Lord said to her further, behold, you are with child, and you will bear a son, and you shall call his name Ishmael, because the Lord has... Is that where? That's not... Yeah, okay. You should call his name Ishmael, because the Lord has given heed to your affliction. Ishmael, this is a really cool name, actually. So it's a combination of two Hebrew words. One is Shema. Does anybody know what Shema means? What does it mean? Hear. Does anybody know what El means? God who hears. What Ishmael's name means is the God who hears. Because the Lord has given heed to your affliction. He will be a wild donkey of a man. His hand will be against everyone. Wild donkey of a man. It sounds a little like, insulting, but it's not. It means he's kind of like really strong-willed. Doesn't really get along with anyone. Untamable. Wants to run wild. His hand will be against everyone. And in the Hebrew, actually, it's not just his hand will be against everyone, but it's his hand will be against everyone, and everyone's will be against him. So it's a two-sided coin. It's not just one-sided. Because we know this is like the father of Islam, essentially. So we can tend to be like, well, yeah, Muslims are, and, it's a violent religion. It is. And he will live to the east of all of his brothers. Then she called the name of the Lord who spoke to her, you are a God who sees. Rohi El Rohi, the God who sees. I love this. I want you to hear this right now. She's in the wilderness. Her heart's broken. She feels hopeless. Somebody's treating her bad. God sees it. I think somebody needs to hear this tonight. You feel like you're in it, man. And you feel like you don't know what you're going to do. Hear it. God sees you. I've said this more than once. I love this, Exodus chapter 3. God tells Moses, tell the people, I see their affliction and I am concerned for them. He sees your affliction and he's concerned for you. He's here with you. He's not blind. El Rohi, the God who sees. For she said, I have, and this is so good. This is an Egyptian, a Gentile. Hear it, it's a Gentile. This isn't one of the great fathers of the faith. This isn't Abraham, Isaac, or Jacob. This isn't Moses. This is some Goyim woman. Have I even remained alive after seeing him? She saw the Lord face to face. She saw him and gazed on him. He came to her, appeared to her, and she lived. So if you feel like you're in despair, Keep your eyes open. I've shared this before. Where there's a dragon, there's a treasure. Where there's a dragon, there's a treasure. Where there's a valley, there's a mountain. Just got to look around. Therefore, the well was called Berlai Rohi, which means the well of the God who sees. And this makes me think, I've said this more than once, we are a forgetful people. The Lord will bless us last week, and then this week we're grumbling. It's natural. I mean, it's what we do, who we are. The Israelites, we know, they crossed the Red Sea as on dry land. 3 days later, they watched God part the waters and walk through it and then close them on their enemies, deliver them, and 3 days later, we're thirsty. Did you just bring us out here to die? Were there not enough graves in Egypt? So here's something to apply to your life. Some of you are in a wilderness right now, and God's about to break in. You're in a valley, and He's about to lead you up the mountain. And when you get to that mountaintop, write it down. When you get to that mountaintop, take a picture. When you get to that mountaintop, create a memorial stone. So that way, when you're back in the valley, because you will be, it's only a matter of time, you're either coming into a storm or you're coming out of a storm and heading back into a storm, right? I mean, that's it. So when that happens to you again, you can look back and say, oh yeah, I remember this one was worse, God, and you did this for me. I can only imagine, and I can't wait to see what you're going to do now. That's right. That was really crappy. This is barely anything. But here I am, complaining. Take a picture. Take a picture, it lasts longer. So Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram called the name of his son, whom Hagar bore, Ishmael. Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael to him. What an 11-year journey that Abram's been on. I know you guys are like, it feels like it's been 25 years with you going through Genesis week after week after week. 11 years. And you know what he's got right now? An illegitimate son, one that's not the promise, one that's not from his wife. The beautiful thing is God still blesses it. God still blesses them. So even in the mistake, even in the folly, even in the mishap, God still blesses it. And that's the beauty of being connected to the covenant people. The fact that she was smart enough to go back. And even though it was hard, God still blesses it. So I just want to encourage you, if you're not 86 years old yet, it's not over. I'm looking around the room and I don't see an 86-year-old in here. It's not over yet. You don't know what the Lord's going to do. You keep your expectation. You keep your perspective in the right place. You know, I think of, you want to know if you're in a really bad situation right now, and some of you are, you want to know what'll make it worse? Complaining. Telling you. Attitude, Winston Churchill said, attitude is a small thing that makes a big difference. Israel's in the wilderness, and they're thirsty, and they start complaining. And you know what God does? He sends snakes. It's like their complaining made it worse. So believe me, it can always get worse. But you can shift your perspective and make it better. One of the ways that we can do that, I'll just leave you with this, is by marking moments when God appears. When God gave provision where it seemed like there was no provision. When God manifested himself to you and you couldn't believe it. And don't forget about those times. Mark them. Make a well. Name it the well of the God who sees. And then when you're down and you're feeling low, go drink from that well.